Hello, Sandy. Nice to see you. It's always a
Hey,
treat to see you.
it's always great to see you too. And what better time than for Women's History Month, right?
It really is. And I think yeah, they say we don't need one day, one month to celebrate, but I say that's such a nice thing to pause and celebrate. We need the time to make sure that we reflect, we take a pause. The day-to-day life is so busy and we all are running in 100 different directions. So I truly enjoy having a day or a month to celebrate, the women who came behind us, the women who are walking with us, and also the women who are gonna come in the future to create this change. So I'm really excited, Sandy, that we are doing the LinkedIn Live and we all are here to celebrate. And I encourage the women who are listening or the men who are listening to our LinkedIn Live to join us in celebrating someone who made an impact in their life and take this moment to cherish and pay gratitude to make sure that we all come together and continue the progress, especially in the world of data and AI.
And I think it's really cool that we're together with our women leaders of data and AI um, to celebrate women, the power of technology, and recognizing how data and AI have the opportunity to open up new opportunities and new pathways for women in innovation and technology and entrepreneurship. AI will drive trillions and trillions of dollars into that global economy. And I want to make sure that we, especially women leaders of data and AI, are ready for that as well and ready to amplify and support each other, which, Asha, I know that's why you started this group. I know I love my circle, so supportive and so amazing. And so I think that this is a great way to celebrate, but also to present opportunities and talk about opportunities that are out there as well.
You talk about, I'm going to take just a moment to talk about how grateful I feel to be in the company of these amazing women who are not only making the waves in their organization, but really thinking about making an impact in the world and leave a legacy behind. When we started this organization, we were women leaders in data and AI, and we transitioned to world leader only because we wanted to be inclusive. We said, all genders, all ethnicity, all ages need to come together for the cause of advancing women. It shouldn't be just the cause of women to advance women, but it should be the cause of the corporations and the world leaders to come together and make sure that we do it right. The mission is to create the fair digital world. As the leaders in this industry, data and AI, it is so critical that we recognize the responsible, ethical AI practices and make sure that we are building a fair digital world. But coming together is so critical. So, I'm excited that we are bringing everybody along for this cause. And so it's just not my cause and your cause, but it's the cause of the world to come together and do the right thing and build a fair digital world as we are diving right into the world of AI with good, bad, and ugly that it brings to us.
That is true. So true. And it's still hard for me to go to. I love what you did when you changed it from women leaders in data and AI, but I still think about women leaders in
Yes,
data and AI,
it is.
and world leaders is good. It's both of them are really amazing. But today, as we celebrate, Women's History Month, I think we'll start there. Well, should we? The format today, I think, is really interesting. We have a whole set of amazing women. Each one will take 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll ask them some questions between Asha and I, and we'll see their perspectives. And hopefully, from each woman, you'll get at least one thing, but probably two or three things that you can take away today as well. Shall we
And
get started, Asha? You're first up on the docket.
I love it. And I'm so looking forward to hearing everybody who's going to come forward and
Who's
share
going to come
their life
forward and share
lessons.
their
Yes.
life lessons? Yes. Yeah, it sounds good. So let's go ahead and get started with you first. And I've got some questions I want to ask you. And I think you've addressed a lot of these, but just kind of tell us what your role is at World Leaders in Data and AI, and tell us a little bit about where you're calling in from. Like, where are you today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm the founder and CEO of Wilda, started as women leaders and now world leaders, but our cause remains the same. We are all strong women who are coming together and strong men who are coming together to advance women leader and building a fair digital world. I'm calling in from New Jersey. Been here for now 32 years, Sandy, and I call New York area, the tri-state area, my home because I've been in this area for all this time. And and truly enjoy being here. And we have all 4 seasons. So enjoying the spring now that as we are getting into the warmer weather, loving the beautiful day outside today.
Well, I have to say, you guys, if you ever go to New York, the last time I was in New York, Asha and I went to dinner. She gave us a great place. It was awesome. I'm so thankful we had a reservation to get in there. Do you remember that, our dinner?
It was so hard to get into. Yeah, and we were by Bryant Park, which is a great place if you're in
Oh
New York
yeah.
City. Just even a small stroll around Bryant Park is a historical location, and we actually went right around the Bryant Park to have our dinner, which was a treat. And I think that's the whole point of having that network. When you are reaching out or traveling, to reach out to your network to make sure you stay connected, and especially in the world of machines, we are so stuck with Zoom. Taking time out to actually have a cup of coffee, when
Yeah.
you're traveling with a friend, with a network, is really precious.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that will replace in world, in real life, IRL interactions. I just think it's so amazing. So, can you tell us how you personally are using AI,
Oh
and then
yeah.
we'll to where AI is going? So, how are you personally
Oh
using
my
it?
God, I use it for everything. And even my team, when I'm talking to them and I'll say, did you research further? What did, Perplexity say or ChatGPT say about this research? So no, I think the whole team is getting more intelligent and smarter because we actually now spend a lot more time on research because we know it's easily available. I encourage to make sure that we actually check the references where we're doing our research from so it's accurate. Meeting notes, I mean, of course, when you talk about large language models to do your research at Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT is something we go to all the time. I go to it and I make sure that my team is using it constantly. And especially we're in the world of sharing knowledge. And if we don't constantly do our research, it's hard for us to do the sharing appropriately. uh, I'm sure each one of us is doing the note taker and summaries. If you don't do that, I think that's something very low hanging fruit, which I think everybody who's listening should be using. I do note taker is always on for me. I use Otter or Circleback or Fathom, which comes with Zoom. But any of the note takers you use, having the summaries and having a readout at your next meeting before you start your meeting to just look back what you discussed, I think is a great practice that we use internally and externally with our team and our members and our corporations. And then about graphics, a lot of times we'll go to the softwares to say what graphic looks good and can we really come up with a cooler graphic when we are actually creating Zoom background or any other background. So yeah, we are using AI at everything now, Sandy. I cannot think of any one thing. Even the email, our email organization is done by Superhuman, and we are using AI at every step. And I think making us more efficient, and making us more smarter. So I truly believe that AI is here to help us get smarter. Yeah, somebody said yesterday, is it going to take away from our intelligence? And I say, it makes us intelligent because we still have to use our intelligence to know what ChatGPT or Claude is giving us is accurate or not. We still have to be creative to make sure we make sense of it and curate it. We can't run away from being human and using our intelligence, our experiences as we use AI.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was doing some research. I just did a keynote at South by Southwest, and I was doing some research back when like calculators were introduced and how everybody said, "Oh, our brain's going to go to mush because we won't be adding numbers." I think the same situation is true here today. I will just give one warning about Otter and everything that takes notes for you. They're all amazing. Just check the T's and C's. All of
Yeah.
them have different T's and C's. And for your company, you may or may not want them to have access to your data. And some
That's
of
true.
them actually will say in the T's and C's that data becomes theirs once you
Oh my
record it. So
God.
just check that out.
Yes, I think having the company policies and what they allow and what kind of licenses they have will be very important to look at.
So where do you see AI going in the future? What's the good, the bad
You
kind
know,
of?
with every technology, any science, if it's biology, if it's chemical or nuclear, there's good and bad with every science. When we think about artificial intelligence, there's good and bad. The good is that it's going to help us be more productive. There's so many use cases that can, make us more efficient or, innovative or creative. But there's a lot of bad that comes with it, which is safety and privacy and ethics and regulation. So I think there's a balance of how you use the technology and how aware you are personally to make sure, as you immediately pointed out, look at the TNC, what is this technology you're using? What are the boundaries? What are the firewalls? So it becomes really important for us to become more, you know, aware of what the regulations are, and for us to be more educated about, is our data clean? Is there governance? Is there security? Is there privacy? So really thinking about data as the core, the data is the key, and being knowledgeable about these technologies and what comes with it becomes really critical. And I'm really excited about agents, how these large language models now can take the next step of becoming agents and executing on the task, which I think is really interesting. I don't see a lot of immediate use cases that are super successful, but I know it's all in works and they all are working on it. There's so many companies in Silicon Valley who are working on it. So I'm excited about what's in store for us.
Really cool. Asha, I just recently wrote this book called AI First, and I actually wrote an agent to go along with the book
Oh my
because
God, that's great.
you've written a book before, you got your pen down 9 months
Mhm.
ahead, and everything's moving so fast. I will say it taught me so much writing my own agent. I tried like 4 or 5 different platforms. I just learned so much doing that. I think you're right on target that AI agents are going to be the future for sure. There's so much in there. You've been talking a lot about AI and data, but I think, Asha, you're an amazing leader, throughout your career, not just with world leaders of data and AI, but so many things that you've done that people thought you could never do or a woman could never do. So, in that leadership journey, if you had to give us one key lesson that you learned, what would that be?
You know, I, it's a great question because there's so many lessons, right? There's so many ups and downs in your career, and you think about it. And as a woman, I definitely, they were early on in my career. I had a manager who said to me, "Oh, I'm not going to give you more work because, you just got married, you're going to have a family." So I've had situations where I was not given opportunities because of my gender. It was very openly mentioned to me. And later on in my career, when I was the CEO of the organization, and my board member came to me and said, Asha, you should, lower down your presence because your presence is very strong. So just because of my gender, it was hard that you're the only woman in the room. But I would say that one thing which I learned throughout my career is to take risk. Don't take your limitation and hold on to your limitation, but really focus on your strength and jump on it and start taking risk and say, I can do it, and get ahead and take chances and do bigger things than you think you can, and make sure that you're taking more responsibility and executing on it. You know, get ready for it. And a lot of times I think we think about, is that, can I really do it? No one's asking me. But I think it's the courage to take the risk to jump in and make things happen is so critical, and to really make sure that you execute well on the responsibilities you take, and keep moving forward and not worry about my limitations. Am I the only woman, or am I going to get a shot or not? So I think see the half glass full and continue moving forward is really, really important.
I love that. Be bold, take risks. Last question, and then we're going to move on to the amazing Danielle as well. Is there a woman that you would like to thank or to recognize in honor of International Women's Month?
I have to say, there's not one woman. I think, throughout my journey, I've had some amazing women, from my mom, who was just an amazing leader, entrepreneur, excellent worker, but through many, many women, I've met throughout my career. But really, most recently, I am amazed every day when I come to Wilder and I see these amazing women, Sandy, and you've met them. Each one of you. I mean, I see you, Sandy, and I see you travel the world, be the thought leader, and always pay forward. You've brought on so many women along. As you, every single time I talk to you, you are like promoting another woman. You're saying, let's bring those women in. I know that woman. And so I think examples like that, Danielle Arnone is going to come on uh, during our talk. And, the way she stepped up at the summit and became the leader, and it, I was in awe of seeing her being so giving, and her experience was so fabulous, but she kept thanking others. And so I feel that these women who I'm meeting every day in Wilda, to see them show up as a leader, and even today, we're going to see all these women who are going to come up and pay forward, so graciously take time out from their busy day to say, what can I do to make sure I celebrate the Women's History Month? And I think that's what I am so proud of, so inspired by, and I'm so lucky to be around so many women. And they say there are enough women in leadership. I look at all of you, it's like, oh my God, just amazing women in leadership. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to invite our next guest here.
Awesome. Well, first of all, we want to thank you, Asha, for starting this amazing group. That's why we're all here. You are the reason we are here. So thank you. And let's have Danielle come up next to have her highlight. There she is.
Hello. How
Nice
are
to
you
see
guys?
you, Danielle.
Nice to see you too.
So why don't we start with you introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, where you're calling in from, but a little bit about your role as well.
Sure. And thank you so much for the kind words, ladies. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to be with you. Happy Women's History Month. I'm Danielle Arnaud, and I'm the Chief Information and Digital Officer for Comb Incorporated. We're a consumer products company. I've been a digital transformation leader for the last several years, and very honored to be also on the board of WILDA. And from working in New York today, and originally from New Jersey. Got two
And
Jersey girls on the call.
and and Sandy, I have to say that all of you have such amazing background, and I would love to talk to you, Sandy. I know we're going to kind of close with the big one, which is you. But I think the industry, the all of you have come from so many different industries that you have touched. And Daniela, maybe just touch upon the industries you came from and what have you seen in that industry as you step into the data and AI world? How organizations like yours are using data and AI, how you're using data and AI, and what do you see for the future?
I think, I have the benefit of working in consumer products, so it's very humanizing, right? Because I've done beauty, I've done over the counter, personal care products. And if you don't put the consumer at the heart of everything that you do, you're just not going to be competitive. And the engine of digital and data has helped me be able to partner with all parts of the business to make sure that the consumer is getting the right product at the right time and the right context, and that we're anticipating those needs. Sandy talked about innovation quite a lot in the beginning. So, artificial intelligence, data, the technology platforms that we're investing in, and a lot of work that we're doing at Comb is around just getting that digital core stood up and making sure that we have the visibility, the agility that we need to, really, there's so many headwinds in consumer products, Asha. There's so much uncertainty, so much consumer sentiment that is like everyone's holding their breath right now with inflation and talks of recession and things like that. And so we have to operate in that context. And I think there's the workforce too. So it's very human, right? There's the consumer, and what do we do in service of the consumer? And then how do we bring it in? And how do we enable the workforce to be productive? You talked about your everyday hacks, right? Of how you're using it, how your team is using AI. How do we use those agentic solutions? How do we provide those co-pilot solutions to help people do more with less? Because when you're in a high pressure industry such as consumer products, there's a lot of pressure on the P&L. There's a lot of pressure to really be hyper efficient. And that's where that relationship between humans and employees and machines, I think, is very compelling and super exciting.
And how do you, Danielle, I'm just curious, like, especially looking forward in the future, how do you make sure that people know that you're trying to help them? Like you're supplementing them, you're augmenting them, it's AI first, but human always. How are you doing that with your team so that they know, hey, I need to jump in here because Danielle is making my life better and helping me to deal with all these things versus taking away my job, for example?
I think this is the question, right? In
Mhm.
terms of people trusting and adopting these solutions. And first and foremost is you have to authentically believe that there's dignity in work. And the dignity in the work is that every person shows up and they want to have a purpose. And that purpose may actually be altered by some of the different tools that we're talking about. And you have to go on the journey with them. As leaders, we have to be willing to roll up our sleeves and go deeply into what those different processes are, what really is the right level of automation. This is why, slight aside, there is so much pushback on return on investment,
Mhm.
right? Like we get constant resistance about should we try? What if we do? Did we spend enough? Did we spend too little? And I think it's because we haven't really gone far enough into the details with the workforce to understand what are their challenges, what do they think some of these solutions could look like to help them be more productive, and what will they do with the remaining time, because this is a part of the hypothesis, right? Like, oh, we're going to give back so much time. Really, how much time are we giving back? And if there were really good ideas before, we should have been actioning them all along. So let's be honest with each other about where we think the value is going to come from, invest behind that in small ways, and make sure that the workforce is contributing from the very beginning about what those unlocks could look like.
I think, Daniela, what a great point here, because I think, yes, there is a need to justify the ROI behind AI. Yes, there is a need to quantify what these technologies are bringing together. But if you don't have the executive leadership behind it and the dollars behind it to invest appropriately to figure out where the low-hanging fruits are or where can we actually get the returns, then it becomes really a tough challenge for the technology leaders to prove that, because now they're working with limited funds and now they have to prove ROI with not much resources.
And it's
Um,
still early, to your
it's still
point.
early.
It's still early, and we're in a stage of experimentation where there is, Sandy, to your point, I think there is really a need to meet people where they're at to address some of the fear and uncertainty with respect to job security and things like that. And at the end of the day, as leaders, we need talent. We're all in a war for talent. And I love your mantra, Sandy, and what you've written about is, it's human first, because we're always going to have a customer to serve. We're always going to be in the business of helping and driving change. There's definitely no turning back from here. And, the folks that we work with have to fundamentally trust that we have the same purpose, and then we're going to get the outcomes that we're after, and the speed and the continuity of that has to be monitored and measured for sure.
And you're such an amazing leader. We'd love to learn
Thank
from
you.
you. Like, what's one thing? I know you probably have a whole book you could write, but what's one thing you'd like to share with all the women today that they could take away and maybe action themselves as a leader?
I think it's about staying in your power.
I love that.
And I'm in my 50s now. It took me a while to figure this out, I'll be very honest. One, I didn't really know how much I had. That was the first thing, is really identifying what is your value proposition to the organization, and then building your brand around that value proposition, and then not letting it go. Because this is a time also, just reflecting on this moment, like Asha, I think that Wilda was made for this moment. And where we're celebrating women's history. We are at a very critical point in continuing the progress for women in business and women in technology and women in government, because of the backlash on diversity, inclusivity, a lot of the things that this organization was built upon. And so staying in our power, I think, is not only about maintaining and driving the leadership agenda forward, Sandy,
Mhm.
I also think it's about being really brave about what role you have as a person that's different from many of the others that sit in the C-suite, and not being afraid to ask the tough questions around what is the agenda for talent and performance. And if those dirty little words come up of DEI, right? Because now there's a whole, backlash even about using the term, because it's become synonymous with incompetence. It's
Mhm.
become synonymous, the insinuation that anytime something goes wrong now, it's like, oh, it rained today. It must be a DEI problem.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just become preposterous. So the ability to stay in your power, use the position to really understand what's happening in the business, because we are data professionals after all.
Mhm.
We were made for this moment because
Mhm.
we have the ability, because it's all about meritocracy now, right? Let's embrace it. Let's stay in our power. Let's embrace this opportunity to have the facts. You don't bring a knife right? You know that phrase, right?
Yeah, you
You
don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
you
Yep.
don't bring a knife to a gunfight, and not to be, overly dramatic about it, but you always have your gun loaded with the data. And I think that there's, your strategy and your tactics. And if you're able to, pull all of the strengths that you have, and as engineers and data professionals, there's so much capability that we've built up in our education and experience that's very differentiated from other leaders that we want to collaborate and partner with. And we've got to stay together. I think we've got to stay together with our male colleagues. We've got to stay together as a community. The Wilda community is just a compelling value proposition across the board, and stay in our power as a united united in our mission.
I love that, my God. I think staying in the power, I know, Sandy, you're shaking your head. Staying in your
Yeah, I
power,
love it. Mhm.
I love that, Danielle. And you so rightly said that we have the data, we have the content, we have bring the value. So knowing where your value and building on your value, and especially for the next generation. I mean, yes, DEI has become a dirty word, but you can't be afraid of it to own what you bring to the table. And I think it is so essential that we stay together. And I always say, our men and women have to come together for this cause to make sure that uh, women, apart from the gender, when you see the value, you need to recognize it. You cannot say it's a man, so I'm going to partner with him, or just, women don't ask for a sorry position. Women are coming with tangible results. So making sure that we all have a seat at the table as we are building this world, you know. As we think about this or celebrating this Women's History Month, Daniela, what would you say? Who would you want to credit, or who do you want to pay your gratitude to as you think about this month?
I think opportunities like this should just be celebrated so much, because I imagine that there are a lot of people that are afraid to speak up and really be honest about how they're feeling about what's happening in the world right now. And we did a study. Wilda did a study, for those of you that don't know, back in the fall, that brought to light women that are dropping out of the field, the rate of promotions, and all of this is happening in the background, while companies are making choices to dismantle DEI programs and all of that, right? So I want to celebrate the opportunity to continue to talk about the importance of talent and performance, and the importance of having a real commitment to eradicating bias. Because if we don't eradicate bias, we will never really truly be a merit-based society or workforce. So I think that is on a lot of people's minds, and these forums hopefully give them encouragement that they're not alone in thinking and struggling about how to articulate it because there's no counter argument right now. It doesn't even exist. You don't read about it, you don't hear about it. So this is our moment to let other people know, communities like Wilda exist, not to give up, to keep going, to stay in their power, and to know that we've made progress and we have to continue to stay committed to progress going forward by bringing our data to the party every single time, every single time.
Love it. Yep. Listen, we have the assets, which is our data. We have the knowledge through the data and the insights through the data. Why not use it every single time?
And
with the courage
and the
Yes.
leadership and the people, which is what Danielle talked about and really exemplifies it, on everything you said. I was like, yes, I'm writing down all this. So it's really, really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to bring Karen up next, but you are amazing.
Great.
You're a great inspiration. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you guys. Thanks for including me.
Thank you.
Sandy,
Karen.
Is Karen here? She is probably coming in. But is that wonderful, Sandy, to be able to have these women come in and talk to us? I mean, we all are running around so much that it's hard to find time. So here we have Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hey, Karen.
Good
Nice
morning.
to see you.
Afternoon. Afternoon already. Yeah.
Are you calling in from New York?
I'm calling in from Princeton.
Oh, you're in Princeton today.
Princeton, New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm the only non-New York, New Jerseyan, huh, so far. So
Might be.
I'm out
Yeah.
west.
No, I had a board meeting last night. So I'm calling in from the office this morning.
Well,
Very nice.
awesome.
Very nice.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and all the amazing stuff that you've accomplished.
Sure. I'm Karen Higgins Carter. I am a three-time CIO and board director. I really specialize in preparing long-established companies for a digital future. So that I found over the course of my career to be what I really enjoy doing. So building strategies for companies for which technology, data, AI is really core to their success, building a team and executing against that. So that's what I really like to do. So currently, I sit on the board of Otsuka Pharmaceutical Companies in the US, which is a company that specializes in neuroscience, immunology, and nephrology treatment areas in the treatment of rare disease and really underserved areas. As well as on the board of International Money Express, which is a money transfer service that enables customers to transfer money to more than 60 countries. So I really enjoy that work.
And I've just had a couple of people ping me and say, are we sisters? I wish we were sisters, but we're not sisters. And as far as I know, we're not related, but I don't know. Who knows?
You never know.
We might be. We might be. So tell us a little bit about where you see AI going in the future. And throw in some of what you're using today. Any personal AI hacks that you have?
Yeah, I'm a little tired of ChatGPT, to be quite honest with you. I think, just the nature of text generation is it brings everything to like average, right? Like if you just wrote something with ChatGPT, you'd probably get a C on it. And so it's brought me to really appreciate good writers. I had lunch with a journalist who said, "Hey, I think I want to get back into writing, but I'm really not sure that that's what I want to do." And I threw as much encouragement behind him as possible to be able to do that. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. I was reading an article this morning about AI assisted coding and how it is really not good for evolving in new frameworks, and that it harvests Substack and other types of forums, such that people are no longer contributing to those. So I think getting that marriage right between where AI becomes a tool to enable humans versus consume all of the intelligence and pump out average product. That'll be an interesting thing to watch and navigate as a group of leaders.
Karen, I also think that it's so important to know when to use AI.
Right.
if you're using an AI to figure out if I'm going to Rome, what should I see? And give me an itinerary to explore the city. Or if I'm writing a paper, am I going to just copy paste, or I'm going to use that as a reference point and be the writer who I am? I teach at Columbia and I tell my students always, these AI tools are good for references. That'll be one of your reference point, but you need to still do your traditional references, how you research your topic. And then quote, ChatGPT was one of my references, but you
Right.
cannot do your research just based on one AI tool. You have to still be you to create your own product. You can't depend on ChatGPT because then everybody's paper is going to look the same. So you have
Right.
to make sure that you are the writer. And I think that's where we need to upgrade, as humans, we need to become, better humans to know how to use technology as a tool, not to depend on it 100%, and to
Right.
be able to figure out. And that's why I think education awareness is so important. You know, uh, and then I was curious to hear you worked in financial services.
Mhm.
Now you mentioned pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? How are these companies sitting in, especially being on the board? What do
Yeah.
you see? What do you recommend these organizations, how they're using it? Where are they going with it? And what are their plan in the future?
Yeah, I think I see a lot of common threads across different industries. And I think that the key challenge as an executive and as a board member is how do you capture the value and really translate that? And I don't think AI is the first technology. If you're old enough to remember when the web,
Yeah.
hit the scene. Um, so I think the key to unlocking that is really understanding what are your value streams inside your company. How do you deliver value to a customer? Because it looks very different than the organization chart. And I think there is a tendency to want to structure an approach to a general purpose technology that almost gets in the way of that end-to-end value stream delivery. Like if you have like the AI team, how does that team then engage in those value streams to really bring to light the best opportunities that enhance value delivery? And if you do that well, then the financial results will follow. But I think it's really more about being the mortar and not the brick, if you will. Like you would never want to structure an effort around every function comes up with their use cases, because I think that's a recipe for over investing and not necessarily understanding where the benefits are. I think something, that Danielle said earlier resonates as well in terms of adjusting the workforce, that
Yeah.
there is dignity in work, and we have an obligation to our workforce to prepare them for a future where the roles then do look very different than they do today. And I think companies that can manage that transition well, being honest with themselves in terms of what the workforce looks like, will be the ones that outperform
Mm.
in a digital and AI driven future. And I don't think that's really changed. I mean, if you think about RPA, that is not too unlike agents, right? I mean, agents have there's a little bit more decision-making capability, it's a little bit more than a rules engine. But, I don't know that that really took off to the degree that you could see it, or it was originally estimated to be.
I think those are amazing points. And I just have to tell you a quick funny story. I taught my dad how to use ChatGPT. Next thing I knew, he called me up and he said, I think I have cancer. I was like, yeah, as you would guess, he tried to diagnose something that he had with ChatGPT, and
Oh,
it
God.
said one of the things he could have had was cancer. But Karen, you've got so much experience and so much leadership, and now you're on boards, which is even a greater level of responsibility in companies. What would you share with all these women as like your biggest leadership tip that could help them in their work today?
Yeah, I'm going to share a quote from Carla Harris. I don't know if anybody has seen Carla Harris, but she's a very senior vice chairman at Morgan Stanley, gospel singer, speaker, just an amazing presence. And she shares a quote that has really stuck with me, which is, fear has no place in your success equation. She talks about Carl as pearls and authenticity, and the string that holds that together is really courage. And I find I have to bring that to my forebrain quite often, that, I will tend to see a risk in something that I might want to do or pursue and believe that I don't have the capability to mitigate that. And I think a lot of women feel that way, or a lot of folks who are underrepresented in technology, not because they were born that way, but there is something to, I think it's easy to label it as imposter syndrome, where I think some of the more recent research shows that you're just internalizing messages that you get throughout pursuing your career. And so I often have to check myself, like, what is the worst that could happen? And I've overcome other risks and other challenges in trying to pursue career goals. And so you got to kind of put it in a box and put it away and push through anyway. Not to say you ignore, your instincts, but don't be down on your own capabilities because fear is factoring into those career decisions.
I feel like so many times, the self-doubt pops up from, I don't know where is this coming from? And then to have the courage and say, I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to jump in, and have the courage to jump in. And
yeah, I mean, I remember times like when I was in college, I was a mechanical engineer in college, and I can remember times where there were specific exercises that made women feel excluded. So, one particular plant tour, I remember that I probably, cannot share in a public audience some of, the activities that I saw on that plant tour. I mean, this is the late, early 90s. And so those things still come to mind sometimes when, when I'm moving into environments that are new to me or I'm uncomfortable. And those experiences, I'm like, am I kidding? I was 20 at the time. These things happen. So I have to remind myself that is, I've managed through that before and I can do it again. And so can everybody else.
And Karen, I was talking to a Wilda member who's a male leader, senior leader at a top 5, Fortune 10 companies. And he was saying to me that his daughter goes to Stanford. And this is now. You're talking about 20 years back or 30 years back.
Yeah.
But now, and he said that she feels excluded.
Yeah.
And she's the only one of the few women in this science club. And she said, she comes home and she talks about like how she feels excluded. And he was telling me the story like one-on-one. And I think that's why it becomes so important for these young women to see you and Sandy and Danielle and, all these women, because they need to see the role models. And I
Right.
think role models help these young women feel that they can do it too. So
Yeah, I think representation
thank you.
matters.
Yeah, thank you all for the leadership. And I'm so glad that we have Wilda, where we can showcase these amazing women and all the men who want to support. But when you think about this Women's History Month,
Hmm.
who would you, Karen, want to dedicate this day, month, or thank or recognize someone who?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that I've had the benefit of their wisdom. I think there's one ally in particular that comes to mind. Chris Peretta was somebody that I met um, in my early 30s at GE Capital. And he was the person that I worked for when I had 2 children, and was somebody who really painted a picture of what my career could be that I didn't see originally for myself. Like, I was pregnant with my first child and I was a PMO leader at the time. And I thought, hey, I'm good. Like, I don't have to come back to work. I've achieved my career goals. That's what I want to do. And I think, one thing I've learned is, having children doesn't necessarily change whether or not you're ambitious. It it makes you acknowledge that there's more to do and more to balance, and some choices that you make will be different and influenced by the fact that you're a parent now. And it was a really nice counterbalance to what my instinct was, hey, I figured this out. I'm good. I can retire, having achieved this goal. Um, and he really paved the path for me. It was before the company had any formal flexible work arrangements. And he called me on maternity leave, like, when are you coming back? And I'm like, I don't know that I can come back. How can I do it? He's like, let me know what I can do. And he really marched down to HR and said, she's working these days for these many hours and figure out how to make it work. And I think without that level of advocacy, I don't know that I would I know for certain I would not be in the position I'm in now. I ended up staying at that company another 12 years as a result of that level of creative thinking in terms of how I could stay involved. And I share that story because I think it's important for people to realize that, I worked part-time, I had two children, I navigated that part of my career, prioritizing how I could keep them in the schools that they were in, not moving them, maintaining a travel schedule that was reasonable, and you can still achieve your goals. It may not be on the same time frame, and it may not be exactly the way that you thought you were going to get there. But I think it's important, to your point, Asha, on representation for people to see folks that have navigated that path.
What a great story. And I think that's why when we talk about the world leaders now, and the whole transition was so that we can bring allies as members, because we
Exactly.
do need allies to be members of this mission, And now we're launching, actually, I don't know if I've mentioned to you, we are in the beta for launching CEO Council. So we are bringing in CEOs who are looking for AI transformation, but to do it with fair and digital world. And so now at our Scottsdale retreat, we are going to, so Sandy, you're going to meet, we have some amazing CEOs. We have a CEO of, I think, 30,000 employee company who's coming in, and they want to transform their organization ethically and responsibly. And so, Sandy, you'll meet him. He's also bringing his global CIO. And then we have another organization. It's a biotech company, large biotech company, and his CEO is coming as well. So now we're building a CEO council of 5,000 or more employees who are going to come in with the same mission. So now we are the only organization in the world which has a CIO, the Chief Technology Information Officers, and CEOs coming together for the cause of AI transformation fairly and ethically. So I'm really excited about that. But thank you so much, Karen, for taking time out. I know you're traveling in the middle of your busy schedule to take time out. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Karen, yeah, thank you for the encouragement too. I love the, do it afraid, that courage. I think that's a great, great, great leadership trait. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Take care.
So we're
Sandy,
bringing it.
I cannot wait to have conversation with you at the end. So everybody who's listening, make sure you stay till the end because we're going to get the best. And I'm excited to hear your learning. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. My new sister. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Sandy.
Long lost. You didn't even know you had one.
I did, but I want her as a sister now for sure.
We're all sisters.
Thank you.
Okay,
all
thanks.
Right.
Meryl, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Very good. Why don't you kick us off by telling us about yourself and all the incredible things that you have done?
And also where you're dialing in from, because she's global.
Yeah. Where are you?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for having me today. And it's amazing to listen to all these testimonies and women's. I'm amazed. I feel like a little bit shy then to go after all these amazing women. So I'm calling from Barcelona, Spain.
Ooh.
And
one of my
so
favorite places to go to. It's a beautiful city.
It is. It is a beautiful. Well, today it's not very beautiful weather, but normally we have one. No, it's a beautiful city to live in. So I'm Muriel Moscarini. I'm a mother of two daughters, and I love to say it because in this conversation it makes a real difference also. I've been in the tech environment for more than 30 years now. By education, I'm an industrial engineer. And I've evolved from the beginning of my career. I've had the chance to always evolve in environment in transformation. So I've participated to the transformation of many industries, digital transformation of these industries, whether it was banking, telco, e-democracy, transport, whatever, you name it. And then over the course, I love to say I'm at the third part of my professional journey. So I was in corporate, and then I jumped to the entrepreneur world. So I was CEO of different organization like startups and scale ups, and then I recently came back to the corporate world where I joined a group called SDG. The group has been in data and AI for 30 years. We are specialized in data and AI. We are a management consulting group, and I'm developing the healthcare industry, which is combining with my willingness, in my, let's say, 45 something, willingness to really do tech for good. So I'm happy to work in these environments today.
Very nice. You've worked in so many different industries. So first talk about how are you using AI and where do you see the future, especially, the extensive experience you've had in various industries.
So today my use of AI is definitely to really gain time. And for example, we were talking about reading articles and stuff like this. There's so many things. I very often had the feeling like I was missing something. I don't know if it happens to you, but you have just 24 hours, right? And you're a
Yeah.
mom and you're a wife and you're a daughter and you don't have time. And so I love to use AI so that I have the feeling that I can keep up. So I do a lot of article summary so that I can really, get the essence of what is being said, and this is interesting. And when I see something that is interesting for me, then I would definitely go and read the article, which I think is going to open also on the how to use AI, right? But this is something I do as I am in business development. Also, I see a big potential for me. It's helping me a lot to do some market research because then it really helps me do today something in a very short time, what you used to do in hours, right? Looking for information, and so it's really powerful for me to do that. And that's mainly the way I use it on my day to day. Last not least, I'm French, so you can hear my accent. And I work in Spanish and English and at home French. And so sometimes I lose the capacity to speak correctly a language. And so I use AI also sometimes to translate some messages to be sure that I'm speaking correctly.
That's true. Actually, translation is a great use case.
Yeah.
You travel in different countries and you can quickly say what should you say if
Yeah.
you're lost or.
To give you just an example that I love, when the Ukraine war broke here, we hosted a Ukraine woman who flew from her country, and she was literally not speaking a word of anything than Ukrainian. And we
Wow.
obviously didn't speak Ukrainian at home. So we were like, imagine the scene. So we were hosting her. We hosted her 2 months at home. So having like lunch and dinners. And we were actually using AI, speaking, translating, talking. And this was the way we communicate. And honestly, for this, you say it's like it's good. This is for good. One use case for good.
I love that. That translate is really good. I have to use it when I go to France, actually, to make sure that I can say things correctly. Although the French, I mean, I at least try to speak French, and they appear to really love it. I'm
And next
curious.
time,
Yep,
next time you call me when you go to France.
I will definitely do that. I'm definitely going to do that for sure. So I'm curious, you've been just a fabulous leader across many different areas. What is your secret to being such a great leader? And do you see any difference in, being a leader as a woman in Europe than maybe in other places in the world?
So something I learned along the years, I'm a very passionate person, right? And I have half of my blood Italian and half of my blood from North Europe. So I'm like a little bit of a kind of firework personality. Uh, and you don't see me, but I'm very tall, so I have kind of it's a pack, right? You and then as a leader, while I was growing as a leader, I learned over the years that the energy that you have is actually impacting a lot the people that you lead, and you need to be careful with this. And explaining myself, um, the the role of leader for me is really to take care of people, take care, help them grow, help them, thrive. And when you're passionate like this, then sometimes the way that you can express the passion and the energy and etc. I learned that depends who receives it, may be received, in the
Differently.
exactly in the way that it's gonna help you rise, and some others are kind of more paralyzed. And so this is the a big lesson. And to be honest, I still learn, right? It's like I
Yeah.
think it's a never-ending learning, because it's always different people that you have in front of you. So I learn, and I think it's a one of the leadership also quality that I think is important, is to learn who you have in front of you and the people, and know them. And one size does not fit all.
Mhm.
And so somehow, as a leader, if you want to achieve your purpose of helping these people grow, you need also to adapt, to find, the trigger that will actually really light these people. And sometimes it's not my kind of over energized way of, of doing things. So yeah, this is something I learned along the way, and I think it's important.
I agree with you. I think you and I could be the same. My nickname is Energizer Bunny. So that's what they call me. I'm sure they call you the same thing. And I've had to learn the same. So I love that piece of advice. Your energy level impacts the people that you lead. So you've got to learn how to use it for the right set of people. I think that's awesome.
And sometimes, if your energy is bad, because we have bad days,
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
realize that also this bad energy is going to reflect on the team. So
Yeah.
when you are a real leader, like really embracing and people kind of following you, then you need to be conscious of the energy you spread, because it can, have different effects.
Such
You know
great
what? I
advice.
also heard that when you manage your energy, you can use it for good. And so even the high energy sometimes is related to negative energy, but really navigate that energy for the benefit of the cause. So still keep that
Yes.
distant from your emotions and know when to use this strategically.
Mm. And
So
it's not easy. I mean,
it's
it's
not
it's
easy.
easy to say, but
Yes.
then when you are actually in the action, right? It's not that easy. So I definitely think it's something we need to work on,
Learn.
and some personality even more than others. And I'm one of these.
I have to say, I have two daughters too. So we have another thing in common. And I have one daughter who is not a morning person. I am a morning person. So I get up in the morning, I'm like, good morning. I'll sing songs. And my daughter's like, Mom,
No.
tone down the energy. So it's not only for work, it's for home too, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere. I remember when I was CEO, I used to enter we had an open space, and I would enter and always listen to some music in my car, and I would run into the office singing the music I was listening to in the car, and people were like we're still waking up, right? So no singing, like celebrate, no singing. So and you're right, and this is, I mean, you learn to have the
Listen,
best
now
team.
we know when we meet you next time, you're singing with us.
Yeah, well, probably.
Very nice. So, we are asking everybody. The last question is, who would you dedicate this month to? We celebrate this day, month, in Women's History Month. Who would you celebrate? Who would you recognize? Who would you feel grateful for?
It's a difficult question to choose. I've met first many incredible women
Yes,
along the way. Of course, in this organization, I've met only also great women. And of course, my mom, because she has
of
been an
course.
inspiration for me. Um, but there are two things. One, and it's not a woman. I want to thank my husband,
Oh,
because I would not be the leader woman I am, if he hadn't decided to put his career in the background and stopped working 5 years while I was CEO and traveling a lot. And he decided to stay with the girls. And without him, it would not have happened, and probably, and everything else. So I think it's important to, and you said it, Asha, we can't do this without men. And so for me, it's important to recognize that yeah, he is definitely part of the leader I am today.
And
And
I have to say that, because so many of us are, and as soon as you said husband, me and Sandy are shaking our head too. There's so many women who are, and that's why the whole name change to world leaders was because our ally want to be just allies.
yeah,
And I think it's a great thing because we recognize, I mean, even though we are saying advanced women leaders, we are still recognizing that men can be standing next to us.
yeah.
We can't do it without them. So I'm so glad that you recognize your husband, because so many times, we're thinking about Women's History Month just for women, but we couldn't get ahead
Mm,
if we didn't have someone, a father, or, brother, or a boss, or, a peer, or a
yeah,
husband who
yeah,
didn't support us. We need women supporting
yeah.
us, but we also want
And
men
together,
supporting,
and this is when I
their daughters,
when I
their
give some
sisters.
talks on diversity, I always talk about diversity. It's the full,
Yes.
scope of being diverse. It's not. So yeah, for me it's important. But there is a woman, and this is something I wanted to share. It's a woman. She is now coach, but she has an amazing, incredible, long career in tech behind her. And she's now coaching, and it's very important. She's my coach. She's called Sylvia Estrem. She is French but living in Spain. She's an amazing woman. Like I call her Maître Yoda, Master Yoda now, because
Yeah.
this is like an example of resilience with what she went through. But I want to recognize probably my coach today, but so many others, because I think that we need this mentoring. You call it the way you want, mentoring, coaching, I don't know what. But these moments where so important, where someone is there, understands, because you can talk to a friend, you can talk to your husband, but she understands what you're going through, and she kind of helped me navigate so many difficult situations, and I would not have been probably able to do it without her. So I think it's the person I want to thank today.
Mm,
Thank you. Thank you for
those are incredible.
recognizing her. And thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you
And
so
happy,
much.
happy Women's History Month to you. And I hope you continue being the role model for so many of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Au revoir.
All right.
Gloria.
Thank
Oh,
you, Gloria, for joining. Hi.
I think you're on mute.
Okay,
There
Now
you
we can hear
you hear me
you.
now. Hi, everybody. This is so inspiring. I can't tell you how excited I am right now.
You're bringing the energy, just like we just heard about energy. You're bringing the energy in. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us about your amazing background and where you're calling in from.
Okay, so hi, I'm calling from Boston. So I'm back to this side of the pond, not all that far from our friends in the New Jersey, New York area. I am right now I'm a C-suite advisor, kind of paying it forward from a 30-plus year career leading digital transformations, former CIO, former CEO, across many industries, right? So some of the companies I've worked for most recently, I ran a P&L business for Accenture. I ran a large North America organization for IBM. I drove digital transformation for Amgen. I was the first CEO of Pearson Technology Center, which was just an amazing experience for me. Did large scale digital transformation at Pepsi. So I've kind of been all around. I started as a consultant. I was in industry, came back to consulting, and I'm also spending a lot of time now mentoring the next generation, from college students to women in middle and later career. And it's a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
Really
Gloria,
cool.
yeah, I mean, what a great career, Gloria, from starting your journey as a consultant to becoming the CIO, CEO of a large publishing house, to running a P&L for a top five consulting firm in the world. So first of all, your career is something that would be a role model for so many young women to aspire to. So thank you for your journey, your ups and downs, your, heartaches and successes. And, a lot of people say that you see the successes, but you don't see the heartaches that,
Mhm.
uh, each leader goes through. So as we are celebrating the Women's History Month, we want to celebrate you, and we want to celebrate your success because you bring that to the world and give hope to so many of the young generation and so many of us. So thank you for your journey. Really
Thank you,
appreciate that.
Rasha. And thank you for bringing us all together. It means
Of
everything.
course, of course. And now that we are in the world of data and AI,
Yes.
first of all, you've seen, the whole revolution from internet to digital to now AI, data and then AI. Where do you see the world going? How are you using AI? Where do you see the world going? And how do you see large organization implementing this? And what is the benefit for them?
Yeah, so let me start with a few things. And I love that you pointed out seeing so many kind of iterations of big technology change, right? And one thing I talk about a lot when people ask me is the one constant in all of these iterations I've seen is the human.
Mm.
It's the human. It's about the people, and it's about change, and it's about fear of change and adoption, and realizing that it's human plus the machine, not human or the machine, right? In my day-to-day life, Asha, very much like you, Gen AI has kind of become my personal assistant. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do for an assistant? Actually, I have one who I ask everything, who I ask to edit things. I did a little experiment where I did some primary research about actually women in technology because it's an area I'm very passionate about. Spent a couple weeks doing down and dirty research. About a month later, I went and asked our friend ChatGPT, who isn't always right, but I asked a very similar question and I was shocked by how on point the answer was. What made me a little nervous was show me the sources, prove it to me, right? And it's getting much better at that. So I like that. Where I see AI going, and I'm going to pick up a book. This is an old version. I don't know if you can see it. It's
Yes,
Human Plus Machine,
Accenture.
Paul
Yes, you do.
Garrity.
Yep.
They just come out. This is the 2018 signed copy I have, but
Wow.
it's an old boss of mine. So Paul Dougherty just came out with the 2024 version of it. And the continuum about people and technology groups has been that constant again. But now there's a lot of talk about what is technology going to be best at? What are humans going to be best at? And where are we going to collaborate and augment? And it's that thing that's really, really shifting, right? So I'll give you an example in real life. It applies to the healthcare industry. I recently had to go for an MRI, right? We've all done those. And when I was getting the MRI report back, I was going, gosh, I really hope Mass General puts this through an AI algorithm before the doctor sees it, right? Because we know that AI is detecting things that humans sometimes miss. And it's a really great, so the answer I found out is yes, they do. And the reality is it's a great example of machine with a ton of data augmenting, right, the radiologist. And I just look at that one as one of a gazillion examples of how the AI is making us better. And I'm an eternal optimist, if you haven't picked that up yet. But at the end of the days, I do believe, there's a lot of fear right now, right? A lot of fear. These machines are going to take over the world. AI is going to do really bad things. And I really am an optimist that we're finding ways, and I'm finding ways every single day that the AI is making me better and it's helping me teach people and it's removing some of the fear, right? I was at a dinner not that long ago with a bunch of financial people, and it was like, well, Gloria, you're in technology, this AI thing, how much should I worry about? And I was like, firstly, we've been using AI for decades already,
Mhm.
right? What's changed recently is this idea that we can talk to it and interact with it. So it's accessible to everybody. And I think demystifying some of this is what's so important now. And as Danielle was talking earlier, right, about the value props, we're going to struggle some on the value props, just like we did on some of the earlier digital implementation when we were like, you know what, you just have to do this. But we are starting to see the cases now, and the data's coming out that organizations who are adopting AI earlier are far more, it shows in their profit and revenue. All right, the data's coming out. It's relatively new, but the studies are out there and it's going to make a difference.
Mm,
That was a
great.
mouthful, but I gave
That
her.
was, but it was all great advice. I completely agree with everything that you're saying. And that's whether AI is, software you still need humans, or whether it's, robots and humanoids, which I just saw at a couple
Yep,
of by
yep.
Southwest GTC. So I love that, Gloria. So Gloria, one of my favorite parts of this interview is asking about your leadership. What do you think has made a difference? And, based on what you just talked about, how should you lead both, give us your leadership example from the past and then moving forward? What do you think that looks like? What are the keys?
Well, I think what's really, really important is to understand your superpowers and play to those strengths. So that's a little bit like Danielle talked about, but at the same time, surround yourself by people who are different than you, right? And this comes into a lot of Wilda's mission, right? About eliminating bias, right? Early in my career, I was really good at surrounding myself with high energy, really smart people who were extroverts just like me. That was not the best leadership approach, right? The best approach is when you're putting together, right, a whole brain team and you have people who play to your weaknesses, you play to their strengths, and you come with much better solutions. And I think more than ever, that's going to apply going forward. Right. It applies to the algorithms. It applies to the human and technology teams we're putting together. That diversity of thinking and strengths, I think, is extremely important. I'd also say, I think change in leadership, I don't mean just training, right? I mean collaboration and alignment and a shared vision of what success is and a shared vision of what our customers' possibilities could be. So I think that is extremely, extremely important now. And I would also say this, get comfortable with continuous learning, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's talked about a talent gap we have right now. One of my areas of expertise is around talent and skills and using AI to identify talent and skills. And we are in a new world right now, right? Where everybody's trying to figure out what skills do I have? What skills do I need? Right? What does that future looks like? And there are some great tools out there right now that can help you figure that out from the world. What's the gap? And then how do I fill the gap?
Mm.
Right? Everybody's kind of asking those questions, and we're moving really fast in how to answer those questions and fill those gaps and bring along, the next generation of talent.
Yeah, what was interesting, Gloria, is I was just at South by Southwest, so I got to meet lots of people. I met someone, I won't say the company, but her company doesn't allow them to use AI at all. In fact, yeah. And so you talked about the fear. I think there's fear on both sides. Like she's
Yeah.
afraid she's going to be left behind, because their company actually fires people who use AI. And so I think it's quite fascinating to see the fear exists on those who are using it. Like, is it going to replace me? And then those who can't use it in their job with how am I going to stay up to date if I can't use it?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I've heard some of my company won't let me use certain tools. I haven't spoken to anyone recently who said we can't use AI at all. So that's kind of fascinating for me personally, a little scary because it's like, gosh, how do you stay competitive? Because
Yeah.
this world is moving forward fast, right? And one of the things another mentor of mine used to say is the pace of change we see today, it'll never be slower in the future than it is today. And
Mm,
that's what we're living with.
yeah.
It's crazy. And I love what you said about having the soft skills, really learning about how and what you need to do in this age of change. The hard skills we're going to get from these tools, but
Right.
it's the soft skills, the leadership we need to show as humans, the human plus, which you spoke about,
Yep.
is how do we bring that to the table. But as we are in this special month of Women History Month, and I love that we have this month to celebrate, amazing, amazing leaders, women, people, and allies, who have helped us become better. Who would you want to thank and recognize in this
So
month?
I'm going to say what a lot of people said, which is that's a really hard question because I started making a list and it's really long, right? So I'll call out a few. And the first one I'm going to call out is an ally, a mentor of mine, who's unfortunately not with us anymore. His name was John Leffler. And early in my career, he had said to me, Gloria, it's always personal. Now, understand, we're tech transformation people. But his point was it's never just business, it's never just technology, it's personal. Business is always personal. And I really took that to heart, and it actually has made everything so much more fun for me. Now, I also have to call out that I'm very fortunate. And I've worked for three companies, three very large companies that had female CEOs. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
even realize it until I was thinking about
Wow.
well, I was first at Pearson, the global CEOs. Marjorie Scordino was the only CEO of a FTSE 100 company. While I was at IBM, Ginny Vermity was at the top of the helm, and now Julie Sweet's at the top of the helm at Accenture. So I'm really fortunate that I have just lived with women in those very senior roles. And it took me today to think about that. And I can list a whole bunch of other women who I've worked for, who've been mentors, who are doing amazing things today. And I'm also going to call out that husband of mine
Yes.
because he also, my husband of 30 years, he took a backseat. He didn't mind having a strong woman with a lot of energy and has been my best cheerleader, supporter, and friend.
That
Mm.
is so amazing. I think I love that. I think almost everybody who came to the talk today mentioned a ally or a male partner who have supported them. We can't do it without it all. We need them all to get ahead. And I think I love the dads who call me and tell me about their daughters, or I love when the husbands proudly, I met this really amazing CIO, and he's like so proud of his wife because his wife is the CEO, and so I love the fact that we need more of all. I think that's why the name world leaders, we need them all to make sure that we are building a fair digital world with parity and equity. And even though DEI is a taboo right now, who cares? We still want the fair digital world, and we can't do it without parity and equity. We cannot do
And
it if
there
we
isn't
don't
enough
have
talent. We
there
need
is
the women. There isn't enough talent. The math doesn't work.
and the data science doesn't work, and AI doesn't work if you don't have creativity in it of women and men together, and all genders, whatever the gender is, however you define your gender, we need them all. So thank you so much, Gloria, for coming. Really, really appreciate you
Thank
having
you,
me.
Gloria. You gave us some great nuggets. Thank you so much.
And as we bring in Iman, our next guest, I have to mention Sandy. I love the superpower as well. When Gloria was
Yeah.
talking about the superpower, that was so
Yeah.
cool to have and double down on your superpower. And Iman, thank you so much for coming in. And you are coming in from Canada, Vancouver.
Yes, Vancouver,
So,
Canada.
why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? We're kind of covering Sandy, the entire globe. We had somebody from Barcelona and
Yeah.
Vancouver and New York and Boston recently. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about yourself.
First of all, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having this conversation. And I think it's important for all of us to keep talking about women in the emerging technology. So thanks for doing that. For myself, I'm a technologist by education and trade. I've been a consultant and entrepreneur for over 17 years right now. And for the last 6 years, I've been running my professional services business in digital twins. I've been offering digital twins as a service, which is we launched this product package services early on in the digital twin conversation, supported by Gartner Research. And we jumped on this kind of hype before commercialization to the market. So I'm very proud of that achievement. And today, digital twins is being talked about across all industries, and that's where I'm at today. Just a few years ago, my business was started growing overseas, and I'm starting to figure out where my place is back again in the corporate world, kind of coming back from being an entrepreneur to becoming an employee. So that's another phase that I'm at right now in my career.
Very cool. I have to tell you, so I'm on the board of a company called Altair, and they specialize in digital twinning. And yeah, they just sold to Siemens for $11 billion. $11 billion. Digital twinning is
Wow.
hot, 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 hot. So, if we ask you about AI, first of all, I'd love to know some of your personal hacks that you have going on. And then where do you see the future? Like, tell us what the future will be with digital twins and beyond.
Yeah, so I'll start with the personal hacks. Of course, just like everybody else, I think I'm using AI for speed. And I think that's a double-edged sword. As I see more people are relying on ChatGPT specifically for many, many, many things. For speed, I just go for ChatGPT to ask any questions, especially for research. As well, like it's not always accurate, but it also encourages investigative research to actually go into the resources and find out where is this information coming from. So it's developing a different set of skills there as well. But in terms of where AI is going, I think that there is a lot of opportunity for people to actually not just get more credentials, but you can actually become an expert just by practicing the trade and getting more knowledge by practicing instead of getting more education that can be expensive for some people. So that's an opportunity. But then the challenge with AI is that it's also making us more reliant on or dependent on the speed. So now that we are really not really using more of our cognitive capabilities as humans and just punching everything into AI to generate decision making or potentially analysis or research. And that's actually a concern that started showing up in PhD research across different educational institutions, that we should find somehow the balance, especially with the new generation, where we're encouraging the usage of emerging technology, but at the same time, we want to evolve as humans with our cognitive capabilities.
Very fascinating. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Asha.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just think that digital twinning is fascinating. And I was just at South by Southwest, and somebody had digitally twinned themselves. And she did a session on it. And it was cool because, she travels. So when she's traveling, this digital twin actually takes some meetings for her. And one of the things that she found was that to keep up, she now has to get a dump from her twin on what was discussed, because people will come up to her and say, "Hey, do you remember when we talked about this?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't remember." So I just think the whole digital twinning space, what you're in, Aman, is fascinating. So sorry about that.
Yeah, no, just to confirm what you're mentioning is that the simulation part of the digital twin is what makes AI very useful in this specific space. And I keep explaining AI in the digital twin specifically as a term, because also it's an education for people to understand the difference between AI and digital twin. I keep saying that AI is the soul of a digital twin. Without an AI inside the digital twin, it's not really capable of doing much for you. And that's basically it's should be built to evolve over time. So like just like your friend there, it was able to bring in a piece of information that potentially was thrown around in a random conversation and build on it. And that's the fascinating part of digital twins. And that's the part of my work to plan and implement that level of infrastructure and scalability for these types of digital twins.
Yeah, Iman, first of all, I have to say, so it's so fabulous to see someone like you who's leading in this cutting edge technology and here to not only talk about it, but really your hands are deep into it. So I love that, Sandy, when we think about what our women leaders are doing, from running large insurance companies, sitting on the board of large pharmaceutical companies to, being the CIO, CEO, running P&Ls and working with the latest cutting edge technology. So Iman, thank you so much for sharing what you're doing. But when we think about the next generation, what is the lesson you would share? And who would you dedicate this month to? Like, who is someone you would say, I want to dedicate this month to, and also share a lesson?
So one important thing that I learned over my career, especially scaling a startup, is clarity and alignment is more important than control. And this is something that I've seen across also before becoming an entrepreneur. As an employee, I rarely found leaders who really understood what that really meant in terms of the speed of making decisions and the impact on overall on the organization if you understand the importance of clarity versus control. And I've seen a lot of best practices and bad practices in that sense. Like when you become obsessed about, especially when it's your own business, at some point you think that the more control you have, the better execution you're going to make or better impact, which is a myth, I think, throughout my experience. And the more open your decision-making process is, the more impact you can make, and the more clarity that you have for your vision and mission, for not only with your direct reports, but also with your customers and with the market in general. Just you provide that clarity of why you're there and what kind of problem you're looking to solve, and that kind of generates the impact that you're looking to have, instead of sticking to that controlling, but in some areas it becomes natural to some personalities, but stepping away from that is is a great lesson to learn, I think.
I love it. Clarity and alignment, I think it's critical no matter what you're doing in what business. But when you're working with AI, and especially when you're building agents or twins, digital twins, if you don't have clarity, the persona can really cause a lot of harm than good. So clarity and alignment is such a great takeaway. And who would you dedicate this month to?
Yeah, I think I will be introducing a little bit of a different concept that definitely my father. So you will be thinking right now it's a supportive ally role, but actually, on the contrary, it was a very difficult relationship. And that the level of adversity that is experienced in early adulthood can actually create a very decisive, assertive, strong personality to face challenges in life. So not many people, I would say, are lucky to have the allies and the mentorship that's necessary to advance in life. But I would like to send that message that, even if you don't have that, you still can get where you need to be. And of course, there's other women, like my mother, who kind of emphasized the role of education in my life, that kind of got me where I am today. And also another person that I'd like to acknowledge is my late law professor in school. That's like about 15 years ago. She made an impact, just teaching me about the importance of legal frameworks that I really reference quite often in my business. So she helped me negotiate enterprise deals and compliance and navigating governance. And we were in touch up until unfortunately she passed away. But then there's the good and bad, right? All of us experience the adversity, but also the good things where you have the support and mentorship. But a lot of people are shy to speak about these adversities, and I just wanted to throw it out there that not everybody is lucky to have that level of support, and it's okay to continue pushing forward.
That's unbelievable. Thank you for being vulnerable and talking about it, because there are so many who are listening could be saying that maybe I didn't have that support. Where do I go from here? So that's such a great point to leave us all with, is that if you don't have it, you still can do it. It doesn't mean that you cannot achieve it. Thank you so much, Iman, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Aman. Great to see you.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you,
Take
Asha.
care. And now we have Cindy Howson, one of our very, very own. Cindy, so excited to have you with us, because not only we've seen your journey throughout this journey of build up, but also the journey of your career, your impact in LinkedIn community, but in technology, and how you touch everybody you meet. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the Women's History Month celebration here, and really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Asha and Sandy. Great to see you online and to hear from so many powerful women in our industry. So you call it Women's History Month. I feel like, okay, my career, it should now go in the history books of data and AI, because I
Oh my
started
God.
in this space when data was very much an afterthought. And now it's a niche segment. And now it really is core to every organization's business, a boardroom conversation. But I am the Chief Data and AI Strategy Officer at ThoughtSpot, an AI native decision intelligence platform. But I started my career in this space. I worked with, I often skip this. I worked with DBase 3 for a small consulting company when I first was out of college. And then really Dow Chemical in Switzerland was the world's first truly global data warehouse project in the early 90s. And that was my start in this space.
Wow,
What
that's
a
pretty,
what a great journey.
yeah, pretty interesting. And where are you calling in from, Cindy?
Today, Lewis, Delaware. Just think of it across the ferry from Cape May, New Jersey. I am a Jersey girl who recently transplanted here.
Oh, wow, that's really
That's
interesting.
right. You're there in Delaware now. Oh my God.
I know. I say that all the time. Trust me, the front of my car, the license plate still says Jersey girl.
Oh, that's so cool. We have so many people here from New York and New Jersey. That's wild. So,
Yeah.
Cindy, tell us a little bit about your personal hacks with AI and where you see the future, especially since you've been in the data side. Data is so essential for AI. Talk a little bit about where you see it going.
Yeah, and I do think we use this term AI interchangeably with generative AI, which is the newer form, and traditional machine learning. So predictive analytics, clustering, I think all of that is proven and clear. If I think about generative AI, so at ThoughtSpot, we drink our own champagne. I will use the AI enhanced version of ThoughtSpot. We call it Spotter. It's an AI agent. And I will use it to ask questions like, how did the podcast perform last week? Asha and Sandy were both on the Data Chief podcast. So I'm looking at listener trends or even anomalies. Why was there a boost from listeners in Germany in this particular week? So I use generative AI to ask questions in natural language or to tell me what I didn't know to ask. I also use it for transcriptions. If you think, was it only even like 5 years ago, somebody would have to listen to that recording, transcribe it manually. And now it's great. You can use a product like Descript, it'll transcribe it. You can do your pull quotes from it. And then, of course, creating fun images for social media are just a few of the ways I use generative AI.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Cindy, I was talking to a group of college students at Carnegie Mellon, and I said, yeah, I've been in AI since 2013. And someone raised their hand and they said, Sandy, Miss Carter, how could that be? Chat GPT just came out. I'm like, oh, let me tell you
Yeah.
the process and this. So it is fascinating how people don't recognize that AI has been around before Chat GPT.
Oh, for sure. Even so I love the way you give back. You were talking at Carnegie Mellon. Uh, I was talking at Columbia this past weekend, and somebody said, "Oh, I understand Python, but I don't code in it." And I said, "Don't worry, I don't either, because when I was at school, it didn't exist, and it was more SPSS or base SAS."
Fascinating.
And we all were coding in SQL.
Oh,
SQL.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, listen, the world is changing so fast, and some people love it, some people hate it, some people are indifferent. But what is one leadership lesson you would say that you have learned in your career that could actually be beneficial for the next generation now? With so much going on, right?
Yeah, you have to prioritize your own continuous learning. And I do think that means blocking time in your calendar or making it a habit. The
Mm.
technology is changing faster than we can actually absorb it. And those who are continuous learners will will be better skilled. I do get concerned when I look at data from organizations like Coursera. Women are not investing in reskilling at the same pace as their male counterparts. And I think it gets back to we prioritize the work at hand, we prioritize everyone else's needs, and we're not making time for that. So block it in the calendar, make it a habit, make it a
Mm.
habit.
I was talking to another Wilder member, and she said, I never did in the past, but now, before I go to bed, 30 minutes, I learn something new about AI. And I'm reading, I'm upskilling. So I take that time out before I go to bed. I block that time to make sure that I'm learning something new. And maybe it's for you, it's during the lunch break or is it, the weekend. But I think it's important to block the time to learn. And I think in life, and especially now, things are changing so fast. If you're not a lifelong learner, you cannot stay ahead. The things are moving so fast, it's hard to catch up anyway. But even if you touch a little bit every day, that will help you continue, staying ahead.
For
I
sure.
meet, I meet so many CEOs who are panicking because they're like, oh, am I gonna get, left behind? Think about the managers and the leaders and the executives, everybody needs to stay ahead.
Yeah, and that's also where now that I have a longer drive to the airport, cue the podcast recordings. Or I think it's Notebook. Now I'm going to
LLM.
forget the app.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And
Notebook LLM.
and upload those PDFs so that you can drive and listen at the same time. Of course, if it's a late night drive, I'm listening to, fun music, whether it's yeah, my Pink Pony, somebody or Pink, I don't know, which somebody got me hooked onto that music.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And because we are celebrating Women's History Month, who would you dedicate this, month day to? And a lot of people, Sandy, we've been hearing a lot of people dedicating it to their fathers or husbands, or their professors. But I think it's a woman or a man, someone who cheered for you.
Okay, so dedicated to and cheered for, those are kind of two
Two
different
different things,
things.
yes.
Yeah. So let me do the cheer first.
Okay.
And then dedication. So I think about my personal board of advisors. I call them my powerful women coffee chat. And this is like Susan Cook, now the CEO of Das 42, Elisa Fink. She's a board advisor on so many tech companies, and my executive assistant, Monique Morales, because I would not even be on this podcast or show if she did not help me manage my calendar and prioritize. And these are all strong women that are my sounding boards when I'm having a bad day. We compare tech, we compare power and politics, which I think is also a skill beyond the tech that we all need to hone in on. So I want to thank them. But then I also think about I have had so many male allies in the space that have helped me get to this point in my career. I can go back to my first champion at Dow Chemical, whether it was Bob Lee or Fernand Kaufman, or even Dave Kepler eventually became the CIO at Dow. They gave me the chance for these jobs where my resume really was a non-standard resume. And I can say that at the chapters in my life. When I started teaching at TDWI, that was Wayne Eckerson and Pal Kauza giving me a chance. At Gartner, my bosses, Ian and Neil Chandler, they really championed me. And at ThoughtSpot, I think of our two co-founders, Amit Prakash and Ajit Singh. They never like public shout outs, so I might get scolded for this, but I understand Amit is also speaking at the Wilda Visionaries
Yes,
Forum
he's amazing.
soon. Yes. So these people, they are in a position of power, but they use it to shine a light on women, and tell us the gaps that we need to work on, helping find our voices. I think I want to thank them for that. Who do I dedicate it to? Well, any of the 20 somethings coming into this industry, I would dedicate it to them because I hope that we have made the industry easier for you. I know we're at a volatile time right now. I think of my daughter, the marine biologist, who is also a data scientist working for an organization that gets federal funding. And it's a difficult time. I think of even, one of the foundations I work with asked, are we ThoughtSpot, or am I, Cindy, personally going to stop working with them because of what's going on with bias and DEI programs in North America, in the US? I can't even say North America, in the US, let's be specific. And so I know it's a volatile time. And so I dedicate this to the youth coming into this market now.
Danielle Arnone said earlier, Cindy, that we have to keep moving on.
Yeah.
We cannot pause just because the world thinks this is the right thing to do. And we have to
Yeah.
stay strong.
Yes, and so I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but this is where I do think, listen, some programs were bad and we need to end them. This was never supposed to be reverse discrimination. It was always
Yes.
just supposed to be, what are my blind spots? And help me find my blind spots. And let's not discount somebody just because they have a different style of communicating, a non-standard resume. And that's what we still need to address. We still have a ton of work to do there.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you, Cindy, for all the great advice and the leadership and the AI that you've given to us, but also just for being such a great role model for others too, for that next generation that you talked about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for coming today and
Thanks for having me.
Making time. All right, so Sandy, we are coming towards the end of this session, and I am so excited to hear about you. You spend time asking questions to all these amazing women who came, but I have always admired you from a distance when I see you, traveling to Davos or South by Southwest, or write your first book or the second book, or,
Eighth book.
Eighth book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, eighth book. Look at that. Just
Mm-hmm.
two in last 2 years.
Yes,
And
2 of the last 2 years. Yeah, I started actually writing a book about SOA. I had the first patent in the SOA space and
oh my
said,
God.
I write a book. Yeah.
So
And
tell
that's
us a little bit about you. Where are you calling in from? And tell us a little bit about you, because I'm finding new things about you. I didn't know about this
Yeah.
patent.
Yeah, well, I am calling in from Scottsdale, Arizona, which is where I live now, and I'll get to see a lot of the world leaders there, hopefully in Scottsdale. We've got a surprise. I don't know, do they know about our surprise guest
They
speaker?
don't know about this surprise yet.
Woo! Okay, well, I won't share it then. I won't give away the alpha, but we're real excited about we have a surprise guest speaker. So I'm currently at a startup called Unstoppable. We are a unicorn, which means we've done our raise to be valued at over $1 billion. Before that, I've been with in between like startup, large company. I've worked for IBM. I've worked for Amazon Web Services. and I've done and led several other startups. So I kind of like the in between of both, doing both. I am also an author, as Asha talked about. And let's see, I did pull up my book here. It's AI First, Human Always, which is what we've been talking about almost
Yes.
everywhere. And I will say, I mentioned this earlier, but I did write an AI agent to go along with it because I just felt like I had to put my pen down 9 months ago before the book got published. And I just felt like it's changing so fast. So I have my agent trained on all my new data and articles. So even if you buy the book and get the agent, you'll be constantly getting that new information. So
That's amazing. And you're always forward thinking. We from the time you worked at IBM or AWS, I think you've been a leader, an unstoppable leader. Another great, you work for unstoppable domains, but unstoppable leader and role model to so many women. I want to ask you all the questions which I have here, but I'm going to change the pattern. I want to know what what inspires you? What makes you keep going? I mean, what you reach, not many women, either can think of or either can aspire to, they're fearful. So talk about what inspired you, what keeps you going, what were the skills you had that got you where you are today?
I would say that I'm always a continuous learner, which we've talked about a few times. It's one of Amazon's leadership principles is to ask a lot of questions, right? Show curiosity. And I think that's what I've always done. So that's why I've been ahead in a lot of the tech, like cloud to IoT to spatial computing to artificial intelligence to blockchain. I think I just love it. I mean, it's not that I do it because I have to do it. I do it because I truly enjoy it. I just spoke at South by Southwest. I tried out 100 AI tools and I shared with the audience, I'm going to share with you all my experiences with these tools because some are ready, some are not, some are almost there. And I did that because I wanted the people who listened to me to know that I spoke from experience. And I just wanted to try just to see what it would be like using those tools. So I do it because I'm passionate about it and I love it. Love what I do.
The positions you've got in these large Fortune 100 companies, not easy to get. There's a lot of political disputes, political savviness, political knowledge you need to have to navigate the positions. What is the advice you would give the next generation as they aspire to be in these large organizations and have those large roles? The first thing they always say, don't aspire for the role, do the best work you do the right thing. But what are the skills required that they should start investing in developing, especially when they're working for these large organizations?
So I think I would probably give three pieces of advice. One would be to lead with authenticity. I think a lot of people try to lead like someone else, right? Someone I admire, or that guy right there has done really well. Let me do that. And I always feel like when you go with somebody else's style, it's never gonna be successful. So you need to lead with authenticity, who you are. The second thing is just, ensure that you're building teams that embrace this culture of innovation and learning. Because that innovation and learning is so important. And the team, we've talked about this over and over and over again. My book is Human Always. Nothing can replace a team. As a leader, this, Asha, you can't do it yourself. And I think, that's what's made me successful at all these companies is that I go in and I evaluate and I say, here's what I need on my team. And make sure I'm building that team out so that we can be very successful. And then I guess I would say the last thing is, pursue your passion without waiting for permission. I know when I was at IBM, I really wanted to go move into AI. And a bunch of people were like, no, we've got enough people. No, blah, blah, blah. So I just went and started taking AI classes. I started upping my skill, upping my game, so much so that they brought me over because of the skill set I had. I didn't ask for permission to go do those classes. I just went ahead and did it. And so I think that's what I would also advise is don't wait for permission, just jump in and do it. Don't wait.
I love that. And it's like, I also hear is that like no ego. Like you never say I'm the best. I'm gonna keep learning. I'm not that I know it all. I'm gonna keep, learning because I'm hungry for knowledge. So I'm now gonna come to AI. Like how are you using AI? What do you think about the future of AI? And you're right now, I mean, South by Southwest, what are you hearing? So what are you doing? What do you think? And what are you hearing?
Mm. Well, so my hacks right now are we heard a lot on the personal side. I'll just give you some on the business side. We are a startup and we're using AI to punch above our weight class. People will come up to me and they'll be like, "How many people do you have in your customer support team?" And I don't even tell them because it's so small compared to my support team at Amazon. But we appear bigger because we're using AI on support. We now answer 27% of all support questions with AI. That's starting from 0, 20, like basically 30%. We think we're going to get up to 80%. And we've done that and raised our customer sat scores. And so I'm always looking for places in our business that, because we have all these big ideas, we don't have as much money as an Amazon or an IBM or a Microsoft. So we're always looking for places that we can use it inside of our company. SEO for our customer support, for following up on leads. And my mantra to all my teammates, everybody who works for me, is everybody needs to have at least one AI agent working for them by end of the year. So everybody's trying to figure out, okay, what do I want that to be? A great story. I had one of the guys, he came to me, he's like, we could save 50% of our time if we had this. Of course, I couldn't pull one of our engineers over to create it. And so he built his own little tool. Now, if you're a coder, it's not going to be production ready, but he built this AI agent to accomplish the task. It works. And it was written by him, a non-coder. So those are the kinds of things that I'm seeing. I think that all of us are going to become vibe programmers, this term vibe programmer now, where, you are coding, you're not really a programmer, but you're able to code with all of these no code solutions.
Oh, absolutely. And the no code solutions are becoming more and more sophisticated. So you can truly go out and build your application you want because you're designing it. So you're not now depending on the team of, as you said, a team of 15 or 20 or 100. Now you're using no code AI technologies to implement that. That's really interesting. And if you had to pay forward or not pay forward, I would say probably recognize and thank somebody for the Women's History Month, who would you dedicate it to?
So mine will also be different. I would dedicate it to my grandmother. And my grandmother is so cool. She was only 4'8". I'm 5'7", so she was much shorter, but she never let that get in her way. She actually played basketball. Now, this was unusual at the time. She started a women's basketball league. This is my grandmother. She was only 4'8". She used to hit 3-pointers, even though they didn't count as 3-pointers back then. She had her own business when she said she would go to the Small Business Association meetings and she'd be the only one there that was a woman who owned her own business. She just did things that nobody ever thought anybody could do. And so she inspired me. Like anytime I would ask her about something, she'd be like, well, why not? Of course you can do that. Go get your skills up, go get it. So it was never like, if I came to her and said, hey, I want to do this, she would say, oh no, let's think about it. Too risky. She would be like, why not? Let's do it. Let's jump in there. And so I loved her. She's no longer with us today, but I loved her power. I'm not wearing it today, but I'm having it clean, but I typically wear this necklace that has a little diamond on the center with a bunch of little diamond crystals around it. She gave me that necklace and she told me that if you have a tribe around you, like Wilda is a tribe around you, you're that diamond in the middle, but you sparkle much greater because you have your tribe, because you have all these other people in support. And so I wear it typically every day because it gives me that message that I can do a lot of things, but I can do so much more with my tribe. And thank you for creating Wilda as part of my tribe.
It's a beautiful way to end the session. and talk and leave a meaningful message for Women's History Month. I'm so thankful to your grandmother for giving that message, because it truly is about the tribe.
Yep.
It's who you are, but you're better with your tribe. And I'm so grateful that I have this tribe for me. And Sandy, we get to meet and talk and celebrate all these women today and take the time out to pause and be grateful. And I think it's so important in our day-to-day life to take that little pause and say thank you. And I think everybody who's listening, we go out and say thank you to one person who made an impact in your life, and celebrate the Women's History Month, because it's important to pause and celebrate the women who are doing an amazing thing, but also the men who are cheering for these women, and men who are actually promoting other women and making space for diversity and inclusivity, even if the word DEI stands wherever it stands today or tomorrow. But keep doing the right thing. And as engineers, it becomes our responsibility to build a fair digital world. And I'm so looking forward to coming to Scottsdale and doing our leadership offsite, the VLF, and seeing you in person, seeing everybody who's coming there in person, and wishing everybody a very, very happy Women's History Month. Thank you, Sandy, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Should we bring everybody up on stage so we can take
that's right. We want to bring
picture?
all the Wilda members. Are you guys ready? Let's do a celebration together. This would not be possible without the team who's here, bringing all of us together. So I want to recognize Daniela, Anna, who's the chief of staff for me. Nice, who's holding this production. Oh, we have everybody here now. Wonderful. Oh, there is Nice. Thank you, Nice, for coming on. Cindy, Daniela, Anna. And do we have Karen and Denise here? And Iman, thank you everybody for joining. This is a wonderful team who came together to make this all possible for all of you. And that's Karen. Thank you, Karen, for all the production behind the scene. This is our Wilder team that brings all these amazing things on social media for us. Thank you all. Happy Women's History Month to all of you. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Daniela, for pulling it all together. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We
Take
all
care.
learned so much from the time spent around you, and we're just so inspired by all of you. So I know that all of our members and everybody watching feels it. We certainly have felt it. It's just a joy to have this, inspiration this day, but every day working with leaders like Asha and Sandy. So we love Wilda, and Denise is not on video. She's behind the Wilda.tech image, but she's somebody that we also want to hugely thank for the heavy lift to put this event together for us today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Asha.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jane. Bye-bye.